January 20th starts the Project 2025 agenda. There is no doubt now that President Trump will implement Project 2025. What will happen if Trump gets into the Oval Office and enforces Project 2025? And it seems that the new cabinet members that President Trump has chosen are all authors of Project 2025. For our dear friends who are not familiar with this project presidential transition, here is the definition. The second a Republican gets elected, in the first 180 days, they can go in there and clean house. So Project 2025, this omnibus creeping sounding project, will be in full swing. An amalgamation of right-wing think tanks put aside their differences. They got together and released a 120-page document. And in this document, they laid out all the plans moving forward. Here is the mandate for leadership document, the conservative promise, page 621. Sabbath rest. God ordained the Sabbath as a day of rest, and until very recently, the Judeo-Christian tradition sought to honor that mandate by moral and legal regulation of work on that day. Reading on Congress should encourage communal rest by amending the Fair Labor Standards Act to require that workers be paid time and have 4 hours work on the Sabbath. Communal means shared by all. Communal means shared by all, and that day they're talking about defaults to Sunday.
We can be ready to hit the ground running on day 1 of the next administration.
Make sure that we, as conservatives, are prepared to hit the ground running January 20th, 2025.
Heritage President Kevin Roberts says, there is no doubt that Trump will implement Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation is the largest policy-making organization, the largest think tanks internationally. And what does this mean, dear friends? And for the mark of the beast to be implemented, it must go through policies and legislations. They are the engine of the organization. And if they want to implement policies, it will be internationally. Did you notice, dear friends, how the governors are now requiring Bibles and the 10 Commandments in public schools for them to be patriotic? And they are incorporating religion in the curriculum. It seems harmless, dear friends, but you see there is a link between Project 2025 and these governors.
I want to make sure that we can say we're a Christian nation, and my viewpoint is mostly that I would probably be Christian nationism. That's pretty close to Christian nationalism. Can we, if we're going to have legal immigration, can we get people that actually believe in Christianity? Is that something?
So that is a big part of what we do, is reestablishing that notion in our public policy, and to be able to argue on the basis of public policy those certain truths. And that truth comes from Revelation. And that doesn't mean that everyone agrees with it, but can we at least have Christians in the public policy realm that argue from their perspective that they hold, as opposed to kind of this Christian
state blue laws, then you would have to outlaw sports teams on Saturday in order to accommodate Jews for the Sabbath, or Muslims, Seventh-day Adventists. So how do you kind of thread that needle?
Well, we're not obligated to satisfy every group under the sun. We're not obligated to satisfy every group under the sun. We're not obligated to satisfy every group under the sun.
They said, we're not obligated to satisfy every group under the sun. They are united now, dear friends. We are not obligated to accommodate everyone. And if you choose to be on the Lord's side, to be one of the remnant people of God who will keep the commandments of God, it will be against their policies. For you will keep the Bible Sabbath that Jesus commanded us to keep. They are saying, you will have freedom if and only if you go along with our agenda. Why did God wanted to free his people from Egyptian bondage, from Egyptian hostage situation? Answer, Exodus 9 verse 1. Go back to Pharaoh, the Lord commanded Moses, "Tell him, this is what the Lord, the God of Hebrews says, let my people go so they can worship me." There is only one commandment in God's law that has something to do directly with worship, and that is remembering the Sabbath day. For in 6 days the Lord created the heavens and the earth and rested the seventh day. God wants them to be free. Free to keep the Sabbath, free to worship Him, so they can be free from Pharaoh. How can you worship God if you are being controlled? And when we keep the Sabbath, we become free from worldly care. We become free from our pharaohs. We become free from finances. God wants them to be free. Why? Because slaves don't rest. This is not an empty threat. God sent 10 devastating plagues. Moses went up to